The planet Zephyra glowed under the twin suns, casting long orange and violet shadows across its jagged mountains and glassy rivers. Its skies were alive with floating islands and shimmering energy currents that painted the horizon in colors alien to any human eye. Among the many beings living here, Lyra, a young alien noblewoman, arrived alone on a diplomatic mission. She had traveled far from her home city, carrying messages of peace and trade agreements meant to strengthen alliances across the stars. Lyra's appearance marked her as both elegant and strong. Her skin shimmered faintly with a soft iridescent glow, and her eyes reflected the twin suns like liquid amber. She wore a light protective suit that allowed freedom of movement, its surface engraved with the emblems of her family. She moved carefully, observing the strange landscape around her. Zephyra's wilderness was dangerous, even for someone of her rank. The outer territories were home to creatures whose shapes shifted unpredictably, and some of them were known to attack travelers without warning. As she walked along a narrow cliffside path, Lyra felt the sudden rustle of the nearby shrubs. Her hand instinctively went to her energy staff, a weapon of light and force, though she hated to use it. She sensed the danger before she saw it. A creature with 4 long limbs and glowing eyes emerged from the undergrowth. Its movements were quick, almost too fast to track, and its growl resonated like metal scraping across stone. Lyra's heart raced. She had trained in combat, but she knew this creature was far stronger than any opponent she had faced alone. The staff in her hand hummed faintly, reacting to her stress. She raised it, prepared to strike, but the creature leaped with terrifying speed toward her. Then a figure appeared like a shadow, moving faster than the creature's leap. A human. He landed firmly on the ground, bringing his body between Lyra and the creature. He was tall, strong, and clothed in a reinforced suit designed for combat and survival in alien environments. His dark hair was slightly tousled, but his face was calm, focused. In his hands he held a weapon that pulsed with energy, a type of firearm Lyra had only seen in human legends. Before she could even speak, the human fired a precise shot. The energy bolt struck the creature, sending it sprawling back into the shadows. Its glowing eyes flickered and dimmed as it fled into the forest. The ground shook faintly from its retreat, and Lyra exhaled, feeling both relief and surprise. "Are you all right?" the human asked, his voice steady, carrying a calm authority that seemed unusual for someone in such danger. Lyra hesitated, studying him.
I am.
"Thank you," she replied, her voice measured but tinged with awe. She had expected diplomats, soldiers, and even merchants during her journey, but never a human appearing at exactly the right moment to save her life. Humans were rare in these parts, often seen only in distant legends. Seeing one in person capable of such skill made her heart skip. "I am Ethan," he said simply. "You should not be here alone. This path is not safe." Lyra nodded slowly, unsure whether to trust him completely. "I am Lyra of House Varel. I am here on a mission of peace. I do not wish harm to anyone, and yet it seems danger finds me anyway." Ethan glanced at the path ahead, his expression unreadable. "Danger finds everyone. It is better to travel with someone who can watch your back. Follow me." Lyra hesitated for a moment, but the memory of the creature's glowing eyes made her decision easy. She fell in step beside him, keeping her staff ready while observing his movements. His steps were steady, his eyes scanning constantly. Every now and then he would pause, adjusting some small device on his suit that emitted soft pulses of light. Lyra realized that he was not just strong and fast, he was clever, using both technology and strategy to survive. They traveled for hours, moving through narrow canyons and over sparkling rivers that reflected Zephyra's alien skies. Lyra tried to speak, to ask questions, but Ethan seemed focused on their surroundings rather than conversation. Yet in moments when he glanced at her, she felt a quiet awareness, as if he could sense her every thought. As the sun began to dip behind the mountains, the shadows stretched across the landscape, and another rustle in the bushes warned of more danger. This time several creatures emerged, larger, faster, and more aggressive than the first. Their glowing eyes were fixed on Lyra, their claws scraping against the stone. Lyra felt a surge of fear, but Ethan acted without hesitation. He moved in front of her, weapon raised, firing bursts of energy at the advancing creatures. Each shot was precise, calculated to disable without killing unnecessarily. The creatures growled and hissed, retreating slightly under his skill. "You must stay close," Ethan said, his voice firm but calm. If you stray, they will see you as prey. Do not fight alone. Lyra followed his advice, keeping close. She noticed the way he predicted the creature's movements, almost anticipating their actions. He was not only strong, but intelligent, using his knowledge of both terrain and behavior to stay safe. Lyra could not hide her admiration. Humans were known for courage, but Ethan's combination of skill, planning, and calmness was extraordinary. Hours later, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley. The alien sun had dipped low, and the sky was now a mix of violet and deep blue. Ethan set up a temporary shield that emitted a protective field around them. Lyra watched as he worked, impressed by the technology and speed with which he deployed it. "Rest here for now," Ethan said. "The creatures will not attack while the shield is active, but we must be ready to move quickly when it fades." Lyra sat down cautiously, observing him. "You seem prepared for everything," she said. "How do you know what to do in every situation?" Ethan looked at her, a small, faint smile on his face. "Experience. Humans survive by thinking, learning, and adapting. You will see that in time." Lyra could not hide her curiosity. "And yet, why are you here? Why help me?" Ethan hesitated, his gaze drifting to the horizon. "Some things are important to protect. You are one of them." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had expected guards or soldiers, perhaps even robotic companions, but a human protector like Ethan was beyond her imagination. She felt both curiosity and trust forming, though she did not yet understand why. Night fell over the plateau, and Zephyra's moons rose, casting silver light over the land. Strange alien sounds filled the air, calls from unseen creatures and the gentle hum of the energy currents. Lyra wrapped her protective cloak tighter around herself, still feeling safe because Ethan was nearby. He stood at the edge of the shield, watching the darkened valley below. "We will leave at first light," he said. "The path ahead is dangerous, but together we can make it." Lyra nodded silently. She could feel that the journey ahead would test both of them. Yet in the quiet of the alien night, she realized that having Ethan by her side was more comforting than she had expected. There was something different about this human, something that made her heart steady even when the unknown surrounded her. She did not yet know the truth about him, about the secret he carried, or the role he would play in her life. All she knew was that in a universe full of danger, she had found someone she could rely on, and sometimes that was the greatest strength of all. As the first light of Zephyra's suns touched the horizon, Lyra closed her eyes briefly, preparing herself for the journey ahead. Ethan's presence beside her was silent but reassuring, a steady reminder that even in the wildest unknown, a human's courage could shine brighter than any star. The adventure had only just begun, and Lyra could not yet imagine the bond that would grow between them, the secrets that would be revealed, and the challenges that would test her courage in ways she never expected. For now she trusted her protector, unaware that the man who saved her life might one day save her heart as well. The morning light of Zephyra's twin suns bathed the plateau in warm gold and soft violet. Lyra rose from her cloak, stretching slightly as she prepared for the journey ahead. She felt the weight of the mission on her shoulders, but beside her, Ethan was already ready. His movements were precise, calm, and deliberate, a quiet demonstration of the discipline she had noticed the day before. "We should leave soon," Ethan said, checking the devices on his suit. The small pulses of light flickered in rhythm with his movements, creating a subtle glow around him. "The path ahead is not safe, and we must maintain vigilance." Lyra nodded, adjusting her staff. "I understand. I will follow your lead." Ethan glanced at her briefly. "Good, stay close. The creatures we saw yesterday are not the only danger here. Zephyra has many who would take advantage of travelers." Together, they descended from the plateau into a narrow canyon. The walls were jagged, sharp with black and purple stone. Strange vines with faint luminescence curled around rocks, some moving slightly as if sensing their presence. Lyra's eyes widened with fascination, but she did not let her curiosity distract her. Danger lurked in every shadow, and she trusted Ethan's experience to guide them safely. As they moved, Lyra began to notice more about Ethan. His focus was incredible, yet he remained aware of her movements at all times. If she stumbled or hesitated, he would subtly adjust his pace to ensure she stayed safe. His skill was remarkable, but it was his attention to detail and his calm presence that impressed her most. "You seem prepared for everything," she said cautiously, breaking the silence. "Even the strange creatures and the wild terrain." How do you know what to do? Ethan did not look at her immediately. He scanned the canyon ahead, analyzing the path. Experience, he said finally. Humans learn quickly. We study, we adapt, and we survive. The universe teaches lessons to those who are ready to listen. Lyra considered his words. She had studied diplomacy and strategy her whole life. Yet here was a human who combined intelligence, observation, and courage in ways that even her training could not match. She felt a small spark of admiration. The first challenge of the day came swiftly. A bridge of thin stone stretched across a deep chasm. From above, sharp crystal formations hung precariously, casting sharp reflections of sunlight that dazzled the eyes. The bridge was unstable. One misstep could send someone plummeting into the depths below. I will go first, Ethan said, moving confidently onto the bridge. Follow my steps exactly. Lyra watched his movements, noting how he tested the stones before placing his weight fully. When he reached the other side safely, he extended a hand to her. Careful. The path is unforgiving. Trust me, and you will be fine. Lyra stepped onto the bridge, feeling the stone shift slightly under her feet. She followed his movements carefully, each step measured and precise. The wind howled through the chasm, tugging at her cloak, but Ethan's calm presence steadied her. By the time she reached the other side, her heart was pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. You were right, she admitted, breathing heavily. Your guidance made all the difference. Ethan nodded, offering a faint smile. It is easier when someone follows advice. Zephyra is a beautiful planet, but beauty often hides danger. They continued through the canyon, encountering rivers with strong currents and forests where strange creatures moved just beyond sight. Several times Lyra almost tripped or stumbled, but each time Ethan was there, steadying her or offering a guiding hand. She began to feel a quiet trust growing between them, a connection beyond words. As the sun reached its zenith, they stopped at a small clearing to rest. Lyra watched Ethan set up a compact energy shield that created a dome of protection around them. The shield emitted a soft hum, blending into the sounds of the forest. Lyra could see how easily he handled the technology, adjusting it for maximum coverage while conserving energy. You rely on technology, but also on skill, Lyra observed. Most humans I have heard about depend on one or the other. Ethan glanced at her. Survival requires both. Technology can fail, skill cannot. Humans learn to combine them, to cover weaknesses with strengths. You will see this in action if we encounter trouble again. The quiet moment was interrupted by movement at the edge of the clearing. Lyra's eyes widened as several creatures appeared, smaller than the ones from yesterday but fast and clever. They circled the clearing, observing the humans. Stay behind me, Ethan instructed calmly. He raised his weapon, energy bolts forming a barrier that made the creatures hesitate. Do not move unless I tell you, Lyra nodded, keeping close. She felt her heart race, but she trusted him completely. Ethan's careful planning and calm demeanor gave her courage she had not known she possessed. The creatures made several attempts to approach, but each time Ethan predicted their moves, firing with precision and strategy rather than panic. After a tense few minutes, the creatures retreated into the forest. Lyra exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief and admiration. You are remarkable, she said softly. Ethan's eyes met hers, and for a brief moment she saw a flicker of something deeper than professionalism, something that went beyond duty. Remarkable is relative, he said. We all have moments where we rise to the challenge. Today you did as well, simply by trusting your instincts. Lyra considered his words. He had saved her life, guided her through danger, and yet he spoke as if she had contributed equally. She felt respect and curiosity building inside her. There was more to this human than she could see, more than she could understand, and it fascinated her. As the day progressed, they continued their journey, encountering natural obstacles and minor threats that tested their cooperation. Each challenge reinforced Lyra's admiration for Ethan. He was not only strong and clever, but also thoughtful, aware of her feelings, and patient. He never dismissed her questions or concerns, even when the tasks required focus and speed. At dusk, they reached the edge of a small settlement, a cluster of alien buildings made of shimmering materials that reflected Zephyra's light in soft, flowing patterns. Lyra knew this was where she would need to deliver her message of peace and trade. Yet she also knew that the journey through dangerous territory was far from over. Ethan looked at her, expression serious. We are close, but we cannot relax. The outer settlements can be dangerous. Some do not welcome outsiders, Lyra nodded. I understand. I am grateful that you are here. I would not have made it this far alone. Ethan offered a small, reassuring smile. That is what I am here for. But remember, it is not just me. You are capable. You have courage. You have intelligence. Together we make a strong team. Lyra felt a warm sense of trust and connection. She had expected a protector to follow orders, to guard her with skill and strength. What she did not expect was a human who would teach her, guide her, and challenge her understanding of courage and partnership. As night fell, the settlement's lights twinkled in the distance and the sounds of life reached their ears. Lyra felt both anticipation and relief. The first day of her journey had tested her in ways she had never imagined, and she had survived not just because of skill, but because of trust. Ethan set up a small safe zone outside the settlement, energy shields surrounding their temporary camp. Lyra watched as he worked, marveling at his efficiency and calmness. She felt her curiosity about humans deepen, wondering what other abilities and qualities they possessed. For the first time since arriving on Zephyrah, Lyra allowed herself to relax slightly. She knew the journey ahead would bring more challenges, but she also knew that she was not alone. Beside her was a human whose skill, courage, and careful planning could match any danger the universe presented. As she prepared to rest for the night, she glanced at Ethan. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded, looking at her with steady eyes. "Tomorrow we continue. Stay ready, stay aware, and trust yourself as much as you trust me." Lyra nodded, feeling a quiet sense of determination. The journey was far from over, but she had already learned an important truth. Courage was not just about fighting. It was about trust, partnership, and the quiet strength of standing together. And with Ethan by her side, she felt that no danger, no matter how great, could overwhelm them. The settlement lay quiet under Zephyrah's twin moons, its glowing buildings casting soft reflections on the surrounding terrain. Lyra had spent the day observing the city, learning about the trade routes and preparing for her diplomatic meeting. Yet even among the peaceful appearance, tension lingered. Rumors of a rebel faction attempting to destabilize the region had reached her ears, and she knew that danger was never far away. Ethan moved beside her as they walked through the streets. His presence was steady, calm, and unwavering. Though the locals gave them curious looks, he seemed unbothered. Lyra could not help but notice the small ways he protected her, scanning alleyways, listening carefully, and ensuring that no one could get close without his knowledge. She had grown used to it, but it still left her with a mixture of respect and unease. "Are you certain this settlement is safe?" Lyra asked quietly as they approached the council building. Ethan's gaze scanned the streets one more time. "Safe enough for now," he replied. "But the rebels are clever. They strike where people least expect it. We must be prepared." Lyra nodded. She had seen his careful planning in action since their journey began. She trusted him more than anyone else she had met in Zephyrah, yet a small part of her wondered why a human was so involved in alien affairs. Humans were rare here, after all. Why had he come to this distant world? The council meeting began shortly after they arrived. Lyra presented her messages of peace and trade agreements, her voice steady and polite. Yet she noticed subtle tension among the council members. Some whispered to each other, while others stared at Ethan with curiosity and caution. It was unusual, even for an alien diplomatic gathering, to have a human standing so close to a visiting noble. As the meeting ended, a sudden alarm rang throughout the city. Red lights flashed along the walls, and an urgent message called all able defenders to the outer perimeter. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "What is happening?" she asked, instinctively stepping closer to Ethan. "Rebel attack," Ethan said simply. "We must move quickly." Without hesitation, he took her hand and guided her to a secure passage leading to the city's defense center. Lyra marveled at his knowledge of the city's layout. He moved as if he had walked these streets many times before, navigating the narrow alleys and hidden passages with precision. When they reached the command hub, Ethan began coordinating the city's defenses with a mix of human technology and alien strategy. Lyra watched in awe as he moved with authority, issuing instructions that combined logic, foresight, and bravery. The human ability to adapt and make quick decisions impressed her more than she could express. During the battle, Lyra observed something unexpected. Ethan did not just fight with skill and intelligence. He seemed to anticipate the moves of the rebels, predicting their attacks before they even struck. It was as if he knew the city, its defenses and its weaknesses intimately. She realized that he had not just come to protect her by chance. There was a reason he was here, a deeper purpose. After the battle, as the rebels were driven back, Lyra helped tend to the wounded. Ethan stood nearby, keeping watch, yet his eyes occasionally met hers with a subtle intensity she had not noticed before. It made her heart race, though she did not understand why. Finally, after the city secured its borders, Ethan turned to her. "There is something I need to tell you," he said, his voice serious. "Something you are not aware of." Lyra felt a sudden tension. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I was not sent here solely to protect you from danger. My assignment, my purpose, is deeper than that. According to an agreement between humans and certain alien houses, I'm assigned as your life partner." Lyra froze. The word seemed impossible. "Life partner?" She repeated, unsure she had heard correctly. "What do you mean? How could this be possible?" Ethan's gaze was steady. "It is a cultural practice from Earth. Humans and your ancestors agreed long ago that certain noble lines would have designated partners to ensure alliances and protect important individuals. My role was decided before you even left your home. My task has always been to watch over you, guide you, and, when necessary, protect you. But there is more. I am meant to be your partner in life, not just your protector." Lyra's mind spun. She had trusted him, admired him, even relied on him. But the idea that he had been assigned as her husband before they met was overwhelming. I do not understand. This is sudden. I barely know you." Ethan stepped closer, his tone gentle. "I know it is unexpected. I do not expect immediate understanding or acceptance. But I wanted you to know the truth. Everything I have done, every decision I made during our journey, was with your safety and well-being in mind. I chose to be here not only because I was assigned, but because I wanted to be." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. His words carried sincerity, and she realized that his care for her had been genuine, not merely a duty. Yet the revelation still left her conflicted. She had never imagined that her protector could also be her life partner. "Why not tell me sooner?" she asked softly, trying to steady her voice. "Why let me think you were just protecting me?" Ethan shook his head. "Because I wanted you to know me for who I am, not for what was assigned to me. You should trust your judgment and feelings, not just duty or tradition. I hoped that by helping and guiding you, you would see my character first." Lyra studied him closely. She saw the honesty in his eyes, the quiet strength, and the unwavering devotion. She realized that his skills, his calmness, and his intelligence were more than just part of his human nature. They were part of the man he was, the man she could choose to trust. For a long moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the distant sounds of the recovering city. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice soft but steady. I need time to understand this." "I need to think," Ethan nodded. "Take all the time you need. I will not force your decision. I will continue to protect and support you as I have from the beginning." Over the next hours, Lyra walked through the city, observing the aftermath of the attack. She saw the courage of the people, their determination to rebuild, and the resilience that reminded her of humans in a way she had never imagined. She thought of Ethan, his calm guidance during the chaos, his skill, and the quiet way he cared for her. She began to see him not just as a protector, but as someone remarkable, someone who could inspire trust and admiration. That night, as the city settled and the moons of Zephyr rose, Ethan stood at her side once more. "Rest now," he said. "Tomorrow we continue our mission. The path will be difficult, but together we are strong." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and anticipation. The revelation of his role had shifted everything she thought she knew. She no longer saw him merely as a skilled human protector. She began to sense the potential for something more. A partnership forged not by duty alone, but by trust, courage, and respect. As she prepared to rest, Lyra glanced at Ethan. "Thank you," she said softly, "for telling me the truth. For everything you have done." Ethan offered a small, reassuring smile. "It is my choice, my honor. And one day, if you accept it, it will be a privilege to stand by your side in all things." Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of both the revelation and the journey ahead. She knew the road would be difficult, full of challenges and decisions that would test her courage. But she also knew that she had someone extraordinary beside her, a human whose skill, intelligence, and loyalty were unmatched. And though she could not yet understand the full depth of what lay between them, she felt a small, undeniable spark of hope. In the quiet of the night, Zephyra's moons glimmered like distant beacons, reflecting the promise of courage, trust, and the unexpected bonds that could change a life forever. The journey had grown more complicated, more dangerous, and yet infinitely more intriguing. Lyra understood now that the protector she had relied on was not just her guardian, but a man whose presence might one day reshape her understanding of loyalty, trust, and perhaps even love. The sun rose over Zephyra, casting soft light across the city that had barely survived the rebel attack. Lyra watched from a high balcony, her eyes tracing the streets below where citizens repaired buildings and helped the wounded. The city was alive again, resilient and determined. She could see courage in every action, determination in every movement, and she knew that the challenge of her mission was far from over. Ethan joined her silently, placing a hand on the railing beside hers. "The city is recovering faster than I expected," he said. "The people here are strong. They do not give up easily." Lyra glanced at him, noticing the calm assurance in his voice. She realized that it was not just his skill or intelligence that impressed her. It was his unwavering presence, the way he seemed to predict what needed to be done before anyone else could. Humans were clever and resourceful, but Ethan was remarkable even among them. "We must continue to the rebel stronghold," Ethan said. "They will attempt another strike soon. We cannot wait for them to act first." Lyra nodded, her thoughts returning to the revelation he had shared. The knowledge that he was assigned as her life partner weighed heavily on her mind, yet she could not ignore the growing respect and admiration she felt for him. She had begun to trust him completely, not just for her safety, but for his judgment and wisdom. As they prepared to leave the city, Ethan explained the plan. "We must combine strategy and caution. The rebels are skilled, but they do not anticipate humans' ability to improvise. We will use that to our advantage." Lyra listened closely, fascinated by the way he thought. He considered every possibility, every potential outcome, and planned for both danger and opportunity. His knowledge of tactics, combined with his calm decisiveness, made her feel safer than she had ever felt before. The journey to the rebel stronghold was difficult. They moved through rugged terrain, crossed rivers with strong currents, and navigated forests filled with strange creatures. Each step tested their ability to work together. When obstacles arose, Ethan's calm instructions guided them. He encouraged Lyra to trust her instincts, to observe carefully, and to act with precision. At one point, they encountered a large ravine that blocked their path. A natural bridge of stone stretched across, but it was cracked and unstable. Lyra hesitated, her heart pounding as she looked down at the chasm. Ethan stepped beside her. "We will cross together," he said. "Follow my movements exactly, and we will be safe." Lyra nodded, gripping her staff tightly. She stepped onto the bridge, feeling it shift beneath her weight. Ethan moved confidently beside her, carefully testing each stone. When a section cracked, he adjusted their path immediately, guiding her safely to solid ground. "You are incredible," she said once they reached the other side. "I do not know how you remain so calm." Ethan smiled faintly. "Calmness comes from preparation and experience. Humans survive by thinking ahead, observing carefully, and acting with purpose. You are learning quickly, Lyra. That is just as important." She felt a strange warmth in her chest at his words. He was not only teaching her survival, but also inspiring her courage. His faith in her abilities made her feel stronger, more capable. She realized that trust and teamwork were more powerful than any weapon. As night fell, they approached the rebel encampment. From a distance, Lyra could see the shadows of guards patrolling, the soft glow of fires, and the movement of figures preparing for an attack. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The moment had come to face the rebels directly. Ethan crouched beside her, pointing toward the encampment. "We will need a careful approach. They are well armed and alert, but we can use the terrain and timing to our advantage. Follow my lead and stay close." Lyra nodded. She felt a surge of confidence. Though the situation was dangerous, she trusted Ethan completely. He had protected her, guided her, and shown her courage beyond what she had imagined. She began to see him not just as a protector, but as someone who could inspire loyalty, bravery, and trust. Together, they moved silently through the shadows, avoiding detection, Ethan used his knowledge of both human and alien tactics to navigate the encampment. When a guard approached unexpectedly, he signaled Lyra to remain still. With a precise movement, he distracted the guard and guided Lyra past safely. Once inside the perimeter, they found a vantage point overlooking the main rebel leaders. Ethan whispered instructions, guiding Lyra as they observed the situation. He explained the rebels' weaknesses, the patterns of their movements, and the best strategy to neutralize them without unnecessary harm. Lyra listened carefully, impressed by his clarity and insight. She realized that he not only protected her physically, but also educated her strategically. His intelligence was as powerful as his strength, and she could feel herself growing more capable with every step. When the moment came to act, Ethan led with precision. They disrupted the rebels' plans, creating confusion and forcing them to retreat without a large-scale battle. Lyra was amazed at the effectiveness of his strategy. Humans were clever, she had learned, and Ethan was a master of both thought and action. After the mission, they retreated to a safe location. Lyra looked at Ethan, her admiration and respect deepening. "I did not realize humans could be so resourceful," she said quietly. Ethan's eyes met hers, steady and calm. "We survive by observing, adapting, and thinking ahead. But it is not just skill that matters. Courage, trust, and cooperation are equally important. You have shown all of these today." Lyra felt a quiet warmth. She had begun to understand him not only as a protector, but as a partner in every sense of the word. His guidance, his loyalty, and his unwavering calm had inspired her courage and strengthened her confidence. She realized that the bond between them was growing, a connection built on respect, trust, and shared experience. That night, as they camped under Zephyr's glowing moons, Lyra spoke softly. "I have thought about what you told me, the truth about your role. I still do not fully understand it, but I am beginning to see that your presence is more than duty. It is something important." Ethan nodded, his expression gentle. "It is important, and it is your choice to accept or reject it. I cannot decide that for you, but I will continue to protect and guide you, regardless of your decision. That is my promise." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a sense of calm she had never experienced before. She realized that trust and partnership were more powerful than fear or uncertainty. With Ethan by her side, she felt capable of facing any challenge, no matter how great. As the night deepened, the glow of the moons reflected on their faces. Lyra thought about the journey they had shared, the dangers they had faced, and the moments of courage they had shown together. She began to see the possibility of something more, a bond that went beyond duty, beyond survival, and into trust and connection. Ethan remained vigilant, yet he allowed her moments of reflection. He seemed to understand that strength was not just in action, but in patience, understanding, and quiet support. Lyra realized that the human beside her was remarkable, not only for his skill but for the way he inspired others to rise to their best. By the first light of Zephyr's twin suns, Lyra felt a renewed determination. The rebels would challenge them again. The journey ahead would be difficult, but she now understood that courage and intelligence were most powerful when shared. She had come to see Ethan not only as her protector but as a partner, someone whose loyalty and wisdom could shape the outcome of any challenge. As they packed their gear and prepared to move toward the next stage of their mission, Lyra glanced at Ethan. "I do not fully understand everything yet," she said, "but I am beginning to trust not only your skill but your judgment and heart. I see now that together we are stronger." Ethan's eyes softened, a quiet smile touching his lips. "That is all I ask. Trust yourself as much as you trust me. We face the challenges ahead together, and that is what will make us successful." With that, they set out once more, moving side by side through Zephyr's wild and dangerous landscape. The journey was far from over, but Lyra had learned something invaluable. True strength came from understanding, trust, and connection. And with Ethan beside her, she felt a sense of courage that went beyond the physical, reaching deep into the heart. The sun rose higher, bathing the world in gold and violet light, and Lyra realized that the bond they were forming would shape not only their mission, but the lives of those around them. She was no longer just a noblewoman traveling through danger. She was a partner in a journey of courage, wisdom, and trust, a journey that was just beginning, and for the first time, Lyra allowed herself to hope that the human beside her was not only a protector, but someone she could truly rely on in every way. The twin sons of Zephyr arose, casting warm golden light over the rugged terrain. Lyra stood at the edge of a cliff, gazing at the distant rebel stronghold. The landscape stretched endlessly, filled with jagged peaks, glowing forests, and rivers that sparkled like molten crystal. She felt a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The final confrontation with the rebel faction was near, and the outcome would decide the fate of the settlement, the region, and her mission. Ethan stood beside her, calm and ready. His presence brought her a steady reassurance. Since their first meeting, he had proven himself brave, intelligent, and loyal. She had come to trust him completely, not only as a protector but as a companion, someone whose judgment and courage she admired deeply. "We move carefully," Ethan said, scanning the horizon. "The rebels are aware of our approach. They will try to use the terrain to their advantage, but we have knowledge they do not expect." Lyra nodded, gripping her staff. "I am ready. I trust your plan." Ethan glanced at her, a faint smile on his face. "Trust is important. Courage is important. But together we are strongest." They moved down the rocky path, careful to avoid detection. The rebels' encampment was surrounded by natural defenses, rock walls, rivers, and strange alien plants that shimmered with energy. Ethan led Lyra with precision, guiding her through paths that minimized exposure while maximizing their advantage. As they approached the stronghold, a small group of rebel guards appeared, patrolling the perimeter. Lyra tensed, but Ethan held out a hand. "Stay calm and follow my lead." He moved with fluid speed, using a combination of stealth and clever distraction. Lyra followed, learning from his every move. When a guard's attention turned unexpectedly, Ethan signaled her to act. She released a small energy pulse from her staff that temporarily blinded the guard, allowing them to slip past unnoticed. Inside the stronghold, the rebels were preparing to launch another attack on the city. Lyra and Ethan observed quietly, assessing the layout and the enemy's weaknesses. Ethan whispered instructions, combining human strategy with Lyra's knowledge of the terrain. Together, they formulated a plan that relied not on brute force but on intelligence, timing, and precision. The moment to act came. Ethan led the way, guiding Lyra through corridors and hidden passages. They moved silently, striking only when necessary, avoiding unnecessary harm. Lyra marveled at his skill, realizing that humans possessed an ingenuity that was both creative and disciplined. Ethan's leadership was steady, inspiring confidence in her and fear in the rebels. When they reached the central chamber, the rebel leader appeared, a tall figure with glowing eyes and sharp armor. He raised his weapon, but Ethan and Lyra acted in perfect coordination. Ethan disarmed the leader with a swift movement, while Lyra used her staff to neutralize the remaining defenses. The leader surrendered and the rebel faction was defeated without bloodshed. Breathing heavily, Lyra looked at Ethan. "I cannot believe we did it," she said, awe in her voice. "Your plan, your guidance? It worked perfectly." Ethan nodded, a faint smile on his face. "Humans survive by observing, adapting, and acting with purpose. But courage and trust are just as important. You showed both today. Without your cooperation and intelligence, none of this would have succeeded." Lyra felt a warm sense of pride. She had learned, grown, and faced danger alongside him. But more than that, she had come to see Ethan not just as a protector but as someone who cared for her deeply. Someone whose loyalty and dedication went beyond duty. After the victory, they returned to the settlement, greeted by cheers and relief. The citizens celebrated their success, recognizing the bravery and intelligence that had saved them. Lyra felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but her attention was on Ethan. He had been by her side throughout every danger, guiding, protecting, and inspiring her. That evening, under Zephyr's glowing moons, Lyra turned to Ethan. Her heart raced, not from fear but from realization. "Ethan, I have been thinking about what you told me, the truth about your role. I understand it now. You were assigned to protect me, yes, but you have always chosen to be here. You have always acted with care, courage, and respect, and I feel the same way." Ethan looked at her steady and calm. "Lyra, my duty was always clear, but my feelings grew from experience, not assignment. I have stayed by your side because I wanted to, not because I had to. You have earned my trust, my admiration, and my respect, and I would be honored if you accepted me as a partner in life." Lyra's eyes filled with emotion. She had never expected this. never imagined that her protector could become someone so integral to her life. I accept, she said softly, a smile spreading across her face. Not because it was assigned, but because I trust you, I respect you, and I feel a bond with you. You have proven yourself in every way. Ethan's expression softened, and for the first time a genuine, warm smile crossed his face. Then we stand together, not just as protector and protected, but as partners. Together we are stronger than anything the universe can challenge us with. The two stood side by side, watching the moons rise over Zephyrah. The city below shimmered with lights reflecting hope, courage, and unity. Lyra felt a profound sense of relief and happiness. The danger was over, but more importantly, she had discovered a connection she never expected, a partnership built on trust, courage, and respect. Over the following days, Lyra and Ethan worked together to strengthen the settlement and solidify alliances. They traveled to neighboring cities, negotiating trade, ensuring peace, and demonstrating the power of collaboration between humans and aliens. Everywhere they went, people admired Ethan's intelligence, courage, and ingenuity, reinforcing the HFY ideals of human resourcefulness and bravery. Lyra watched him in these moments, not just as a protector but as a partner. She saw how he inspired loyalty and courage in others, how his calm decisiveness and clever thinking influenced outcomes. She realized that humans possessed qualities that were extraordinary, not just physically, but in their minds and hearts. One evening, as they returned to their temporary camp, Lyra turned to Ethan with a quiet smile. I never imagined that my protector could become someone so important in my life. You have shown me courage, loyalty, and wisdom beyond what I expected, and I am grateful in more ways than I can express. Ethan nodded, his eyes reflecting the glow of Zephyrah's moons. It has been my honor, Lyra, and I am grateful for your trust, your courage, and your partnership. Together we have faced danger, learned from each other, and grown stronger. That is the true measure of strength. Lyra felt her heart swell with warmth. She understood now that the bond between them was not merely about duty or assignment. It was about trust, understanding, and shared courage. Humans, she realized, were remarkable not just in their actions, but in their hearts. Ethan embodied the best of those qualities. In the following weeks, Lyra and Ethan continued to work together, building bridges between humans and aliens, demonstrating the power of cooperation, intelligence, and courage. Their partnership became an example to others, showing that strength came not just from skill, but from trust and connection. And as they stood together on a high cliff watching the twin suns set over Zephyrah, Lyra realized the truth she had only begun to understand, that the human who had saved her life, guided her through danger, and taught her courage was now the one she could rely on in every way. He was no longer just her protector. He was her partner, her companion, and her chosen ally in life. Ethan glanced at her, a soft smile on his face. The journey is never over, Lyra. Challenges will come, but we face them together. That is what makes us strong. Lyra nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. Yes, together, she replied. I have learned that courage, trust, and understanding are the true power in the universe. And with you by my side, I feel that we can face anything. As the suns disappeared behind the mountains, their light reflecting across the valleys and rivers, Lyra and Ethan stood together, united by trust, courage, and a bond that went beyond duty or assignment. The story of their journey was complete, but their partnership had only just begun. A partnership built on the best qualities of humanity, the bravery of the heart, and the unbreakable connection between two souls who had found each other in the vastness of the universe. And so, under the twin moons of Zephyrah, Lyra finally understood that her human protector had always been more than she expected. He was her partner, her equal, and the man who would stand by her side through every challenge to come. Together they were unstoppable,